The Pittsburgh Pirates entered this week having a tall task against the Atlanta Braves, and they met it. They split the series with the Atlanta Braves. Thomas Hatch impresses in his debut on Thursday. Who was the player of the series, and why does this series mean a lot more than we think it does? We're going to talk about all of that and more on this live edition of Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to this live edition of Locked On Pirates here in the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Ethan Smith, your host here of this Locked On Pirates podcast, where we're going to react to things throughout the last 2 months of the season. And albeit the season is feeling like it's coming to a close as we enter the middle dog days of August. But for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they had arguably one of their biggest series of the year. And it wasn't even a series win. Now, a lot of people are going to look at a series split here and say, oh, whatever, they just split with the Atlanta Braves, right? In this series, the Pittsburgh Pirates lost the 2 games they lost to the Atlanta Braves, who, mind you, have 72 victories on the season. And they lost the 2 games in this 4-game set that they lost to Atlanta by a combined 3 runs. There was a world where if 1 or 2 things doesn't happen, this Pittsburgh Pirates team sweeps the Atlanta Braves. And obviously, Pittsburgh moves to 52-63. Nothing crazy is going to come from this, I don't think. I don't think this is going to start some legendary postseason run for this Pittsburgh Pirates team. But what it does do, especially for these young guys like Liover Peguero, Henry Davis, Jack Sawinski, I mean, if you want to, Alfonso Rivas, for these guys to come out of this series, splitting the series with the Atlanta Braves, especially the way you did. I mean, you look at the 4 scores for these games, 7-6 win, 8-6 loss, 6-5 loss, 7-5 loss. The biggest thing that we've been complaining about with this Pirates team is that they can't hit the baseball and that they've struggled to hit the baseball. This series, I mean, they were hitting the baseball everywhere. Now, obviously, Atlanta's pitching has been pretty suspect as of late, but when you want to be a good baseball team, when you know that things are suspect on one end or the other, you take advantage of it, and that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Pirates did here. They took advantage of the Atlanta Braves starting pitching just not playing up to the par that it usually does. And John Gorman is here and says, amazing how much better this lineup is when both Reynolds and Hayes are hot. Oh, 100%. And that's another point that I want to get into, John, and I'll leave your comment up on the screen here. But another point that I want to get into is that Ke'Bryan Hayes had a phenomenal series here. And Brian Reynolds, who I mentioned on the show the other day, has had a crazy on-base streak going over the last 2 or 3 weeks now. When those 2 guys are playing the way that they played in this series, and they batted 2 and 3 today, they combined today for 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 RBIs, and 1 walk. It's exactly what you want from those guys, and those are supposed to be the pillars for your team. They are. Those are the pillars for your team. And then you get contributions from Jack Sawinski. You get contributions from Henry Davis. You get contributions from Liover Peguero, who was 2 for 4 today with 2 RBI singles that extended the lead and proved to be very, very vital parts of what this game ended up being for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, even Jason DeLay had 2 hits today. Sometimes it's just about getting production from your top guys like they saw here in this game with Ke'Bryan Hayes and Bryan Reynolds, and really this entire series from Ke'Bryan Hayes and Bryan Reynolds. And it's a trickle-down effect. The guys see it, they're going to play better. And that's exactly what happened today, and that's what happened throughout this entire series. And again, I understand the way that they lost the 2 games is pretty infuriating, because if they came out of this sweeping Atlanta, we'd be having a much different conversation right now, because the Pittsburgh Pirates would be 54-61. That would be, and it doesn't sound like the biggest difference in the world, but it is. And John, I agree again. At the very least, this team is fun to watch, even if the results don't show. The kids are playing hard and flashing in spots. That's exactly what you want to see down the stretch of this season. You want it to be about the kids continuing to grow and playing teams like the Atlanta Braves the way they did in this series. And splitting a series against the Atlanta Braves is no joke. I mean, the Atlanta Braves are a team that has sputtered a little bit as of late, but they're still the Atlanta Braves. Every hitter in their lineup has like a 700 OPS or higher. They have 72 wins, folks. That's the second most wins in all, or the most wins in all of baseball, actually, now with Baltimore's recent streak of whatever they have going on. Then you look ahead to who you have this weekend, and you have the Cincinnati Reds, a team that you were 5-2 against this year, that you've played very well against in the 7 games that you've played them. And let me just add, by the way, that the Cincinnati Reds are 60-57, have fallen from the graces that they had, played a series in Miami this week, and lost that series. So now you look at what this Pirates team is going to do moving forward in this weekend. You want them to continue it. You want them to play their division rival the same way and with the same intensity you saw them play against Atlanta. And Gregory Hoyle says it exactly the way I was thinking about it this whole series. This felt like a playoff series. It really did. I mean, you watched those 4 games, and it felt like we were watching the NLDS every single night, because every game was coming down to the wire. A lot of the bullpen decisions mattered, all of that good stuff. And I'm happy. I can't say anything except being happy about this. And there's obviously other things that we've heard about with the Pirates today that are very good things that we'll talk about on the show that we're going to drop later this evening or tomorrow morning, and then do another double episode. But before we get into what John is hinting at with Thomas Hatch having a very good outing in his debut for the Pittsburgh Pirates today, hey, if you think this team is fun and you want to go see them play, check out Game Time, because Game Time will hook you up and get you to a Pirates game for the cheap, for the low, and download the Game Time app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you, with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row at PNC Park for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. So download Game Time the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. And download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And, of course, if you want to listen to the hometown broadcast of the Pittsburgh Pirates, do so on SiriusXM and download the SXM app. Also, for all of my everyday people that listen to this show and come into the live streams and comment and leave likes, thank you so much for doing that here on the Locked On Pirates podcast. And something that I liked today was Thomas Hatch. Bailey Falter started today. didn't have the greatest start in the world. 4 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 8 hits. The Braves just had him figured out from the get-go. Matt Olson tied Shohei Ohtani for the home run lead in Major League Baseball, thanks to Thomas Hatch. And then, or not Thomas Hatch, Bailey Falter. Then Thomas Hatch came in and made his debut. And Thomas Hatch on the year has a sub-1 ERA in outings that he goes more than 1 inning pitched. I was blacked out from watching the broadcast for the Pittsburgh Pirates down here as they were playing the Atlanta Braves. So I was listening to the Atlanta Braves broadcast and heard that stat was mentioned. And yeah, I mean, you look at the outings that he's had previously this season at the major league level, he has about 5 of those in Toronto. And in the ones that he pitched more than an inning, he did pretty well. He only did that once or twice. And he did it very well today. 4 strong innings from Thomas Hatch, where he just had this Braves lineup looking silly. I mean, he only allowed 2 hits. He had 2 strikeouts, no earned runs, no walks. So he only allowed 2 base runners for a team that we've seen destroy opposing pitching in the Atlanta Braves. And I was honestly shocked that they didn't let Thomas Hatch go 5. I really was. I thought they were just going to let him go out there again because he was making that lineup just look silly the entire game. And it was a very welcoming debut for a Pirates team that did have to use a lot of the bullpen in this series. There was a worry for me going into today with Bailey Falter being on the mound. I didn't expect him to go deep. He didn't go deep. And then I knew that we'd been using the bullpen a ton this series just with how much offense was being played. So there was a worry there for me. But Thomas Hatch took those worries away from me and ran with it because, man, he had a very good outing. Pirates practically got him for free. I mean, they got him via the waiver wire. So you always like to see guys that get picked up via waivers have strong debuts, and that's exactly what you got to see from Thomas Hatch. And John said, I'd like to see Thomas Hatch get a shot at starting. Really impressive first outing for him. I don't know if I'd want him to start, like label him a starter. I wouldn't be mad with the model of letting him open for the first 3 innings. Like if he pitches like this on a consistent basis and you wanted to let him open for 3 innings on a day that you don't feel comfortable with your starter, sure. I would do that in a heartbeat with Thomas Hatch. For Bailey Falter, I mean, this is just the guy he is. He has the most losses most appearances right now without a win in Major League Baseball by any starting pitcher. He was traded for Rodolfo Castro. Castro, I believe, was called up by the Philadelphia Phillies after that trade was made. Obviously, the Pirates needed pitching, so they go and get Bailey Falter. They wanted a left-handed pitcher. He doesn't throw the ball very hard. We found that out very quickly. He's going to have to work on location. That is what he usually does. He is a location-based pitch-to-contact pitcher, and you saw that today with this strong Braves lineup. I mean, 8 hits in 4 innings. You're not going to last very long in these games. His ERA, of course, goes up to a 5.21. He allowed 2 home runs in this one to Orlando Arcia and Matt Olson. And then Colin Holderman, Pirates had an advantage going into that final inning in the top of the 9th. He did give up a run there, but you like to be in those spots where you do have the wherewithal to know that you can give up a run and still be okay. Like at that point, it was getting to the point where Ronald Acuna was stealing bases without anything happening because there was 2 outs and it was a 2-run game. So he got to inflate his stolen base numbers there a little bit. And John says at the very least, Hatch would give the team some options. Got to find options with Ortiz, Rowanzi, and others not being options to be used in the big leagues. 100%. I agree. We do know that Rowanzi Contreras did just get called up from single-A Bradenton to AAA Indianapolis recently. So maybe he's starting to get back on the comeback trail of getting back to his old self. I really hope so because I love Rowanzi Contreras, the person. I love Rowanzi Contreras, the pitcher, and I love Rowanzi Contreras, the overall player. I just think he's a guy that's going to help this team moving forward. He just has to find his wits about him again. And I think it's something that he definitely will do. And yeah, but the fact that the amount that you had to use your bullpen today or in this series, and you only have to use 3 arms today, you take that and run away with it, especially against this Braves team. And on tomorrow's shows, by the way, I'm sure myself, Jeff Carr, and Stephen Offenbaker over at Locked on Reds will probably have a crossover coming your way I will also be doing another show tomorrow for making up for not recording on Wednesday. So you're getting this show today. You're going to get 2 shows tomorrow, one featuring just myself talking about the debut of Paul Skeens with the SCL Pirates, Rowanzi Contreras, and anything else that's going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates, as well as O'Neal Cruz starting running drills again. And then we'll have the Reds crossover with Jeff Carr and Stephen Offenbaker covering the series, making sure that you guys are taken care of and what you need to know for the weekend series and all of that good stuff. And you guys probably see right here that I said player of the series. Pretty obvious in my estimation of who the player of the series here was for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I think it's clearly Ke'Bryan Hayes. Obviously, Hayes returned to the lineup recently after his IL stints that he was having. And just what a series for Ke'Bryan Hayes. I mean, he left me speechless at times in this series of just how well he was playing. In his last 7 games, he's 286, 300, and a 607 with 2 home runs and 10 RBIs. The kid is just he played well against arguably the best team in all of baseball in the Atlanta Braves this week. I mean, you look at what he was able to do here. He played the 8th, 9th, and 10th. I don't think he played the opener, but man, wow. 16 total bases for Ke'Bryan Hayes. He had 1 double, 1 triple, and 2 home runs in this series. He also had a walk. He only struck out twice, and his average before the series was a 243. It's now a 255. What a series for him, man. I mean, 8 hits, 16 total bases. This is what you want to see from a guy like Ke'Bryan Hayes. It's exactly what you want to see from him in this kind of spot. And I'm very happy that he was able to have this kind of series. Brian Reynolds also had a very phenomenal series also. You have to be happy about that also. And as you mentioned earlier, John, this team is just better when those 2 guys are playing better. And when Hayes returned, that was my biggest thing. I wanted to see the bat finally catch back up. I wanted to see him start bringing the offense to the table that we know that he's had before. He's done it in the minor leagues. He did it in his debut in 2020. He was doing it in 2021 just a little bit. We were getting a taste of it. We know Ke'Bryan Hayes is capable of being a very strong offensive player, and maybe this series was the stepping stone for him to begin that. Brian Reynolds, of course, we know that he had kind of a rough stretch of things there for about a month or 2, has caught fire. He looks like the guy that the Pirates extended earlier this year, and you have to be happy about it. And there's not much else to say about this series. This is, to me, the best series they've played in quite a while, although they didn't come out with it with a series victory. They went toe-to-toe with the best team in baseball, folks, arguably. In my estimation, they're the best team in baseball. So that has to make you folks happy. And you're going to be more happy tomorrow because you're getting 2 episodes tomorrow. One, again, with myself. The other with Jeff Carr and Stephen Offenbaker of Locked On Reds. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Pirates podcast and celebrating with Happy Ethan a little bit here, talking about the series split with the Atlanta Braves. Thomas Hatch impressing in his debut, and Ke'Bryan Hayes having one heck of a series at PNC Park against the Atlanta Braves. Guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday evening. Have some fun. Get ready for Cincinnati this weekend. My name is Ethan Smith, and I will see you on the flip side.